YouTube world? My name is Nicholas Montes and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to the YouTube channel, everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back together again. And in today's video, we're going to be doing another bracket fight. So if you don't know, this past weekend, the latest Christopher Nolan film, Oppenheimer, finally came out. And instead of doing a review, because I don't know if that will be very interesting, and instead of doing a tier list of Christopher Nolan films, I thought that it would be much better to do a bracket fight of Christopher Nolan films. So I thought that would be a lot more interesting, and just jump to that. So let's go ahead and get started doing bracket fights of Christopher Nolan films. Alright, so the way that this is going to work is it's only going to start on this side, and then we'll do this side on the second part. So first we are doing Following versus Memento. I saw Following this year. I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. Granted, it has that Christopher Nolan aesthetic to it, and it was his first movie, but I just feel like his films that came after were just much better. But Memento, on the other hand, was actually a much better movie. Just the idea of telling a story that's backwards and doing an action film where you don't just have people punching each other in the face, that's really cool. Plus, this was like seeing Aldrich Killian in his earlier days, so I loved it. So I'm choosing Memento. Then we got Insomnia versus Batman Begins. Now I'm not quite sure if I did that right. I'm pretty sure I did, hopefully. But we got Insomnia versus Batman Begins. I thought Insomnia was actually a really good movie. It had some pretty good performances by Al Pacino, and especially Robin Williams. You kind of forget that he's in this movie. It's a nice detective film from Christopher Nolan, but then you also have Batman Begins, which was one of the films that kind of kicked off the modern era of comic book films, along with Spider-Man, and X-Men, and Blade. And if I'm being honest, I kind of like Batman Begins more because it actually tells a more interesting story, and the origin story for Batman was a lot better well told in this film. Then we get down here and we get The Prestige versus The Dark Knight, and it's kind of a hard competition because you got The Prestige, which is my favorite Christopher Nolan film, and then you got The Dark Knight, which is definitely my favorite Dark Knight movie. I think The Prestige just has a lot of talent, great talent, a pretty good story, a pretty great story actually, twists and turns I was not expecting, but then you get The Dark Knight, and it just does something so unique with this genre of, instead of taking inspiration from comic book films, he took inspiration from crime thrillers, which I thought was like something so unique for this movie, and because it fits in the character, plus Heath Ledger's Joker is fantastic. So as for me, I really like Dark Knight, but I'm gonna have to go with The Prestige. I'm sorry for all you Dark Knight fans, but I had to choose The Prestige. Then we get Inception versus The Dark Knight Rises, and Inception, I think, is a very well-made film. This was, if you thought Doctor Strange did his special effects great, watch this movie and you'll be completely ashamed, because they literally did this like 10 years earlier. And I think Inception is very good. And then Dark Knight Rises, I think, is a great conclusion to the Dark Knight trilogy. It has some really good action. Plus, Tom Hardy as Bane is really good. It kind of feels a little bit more formulaic, though I thought the way Christopher Nolan handled the characters was still good. So, as for me, which film am I going to pick? I'm going to choose Inception on this one, just because I think it's a little bit more original, and I think it does a better concept better. Alright, that's the end of the first round. Now we're going to go on to round two. Alright, now we're doing round two, and first up we have Interstellar versus Dunkirk. So these are movies that, I'm going to be honest, I'm not crazy about. I saw Interstellar last year, and I thought it was okay. Matthew McConaughey gives a decent performance. And then I saw Dunkirk also last year, like 5 months before. I was mostly bored by it. Like, I like the war aesthetic, and I don't even remember seeing Tom Hardy in the film. And the whole Christopher Nolan aesthetic, it was not that great. I did not feel any of that. So for me, I'm going to choose Interstellar just because I think it's the better movie at least. And then finally, to close out our round two, we have Tenet versus Oppenheimer. The movies of the Christopher Nolan movies of this decade. I saw Tenet last year as well. I thought it was a pretty fine movie. The effects are pretty cool with the way they do action, though I kind of wish it was just straightforward. But then you get Oppenheimer, and I would say this is one of the best films where it's a story that actually is a lot more story focused and not really all the action and spectacle, which I feel like some movies don't need action and spectacle. And this movie proves that, as it's a character story of Oppenheimer after releasing the atomic bomb and thinking he destroyed the world. I mean, like, the usage of black and white in this film, all the performances from Robert Downey Jr. to Cillian Murphy to Florence Pugh to Matt Damon to all these amazing actors and actresses, and just the way that he put this whole film together, it was so great. And so for me, I'm gonna go with Oppenheimer on this one for the ending of round 2. Alright, so then now we're gonna do round 3, where we do these 2 movies and that down. So first up we have Memento versus Batman Begins. And I'm actually gonna choose the Batman Begins movie. I'm sorry, I liked Batman Begins. It was just so good. And then we have The Prestige versus Inception. I'm actually going to choose The Prestige on this one. And then for this round, I'm basically just going to finish it here since it's not the biggest amount of movies and I already talked about them. We have Interstellar versus Interstellar versus Oppenheimer. This is an easy one. I'm choosing Oppenheimer. And then we got to figure out which one is going to come out in last. So, which one's better, Batman Begins or The Prestige? I'm choosing Prestige. Obviously, Oppenheimer is by itself. These are my top 2 Christopher Nolan films as of late right now. So, which film am I going to choose? Unfortunately, sorry Oppenheimer, I love The Prestige. And that is my Christopher Nolan bracket fight. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the about section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.